I'm in my holiday brights because I'm in a hotel room and it's cold. Welcome to the Daily Beast podcast. I'm Joanna Coles, Chief Content Officer of the Daily Beast.
And I am Samantha Bee, Chief Content Officer of Kash Patel's merch website. Our Take a Lap Rhino tank tops are half price this week. Do all your shopping in one place.
It's good to know that we're going to have a t-shirt guy in charge of the FBI.
Yes, please.
On this week's show, in the download, we're getting the latest from inside the Beltway with Daily Beast Washington editor Mary Ann Akers, who will break down the drama with Kash Patel, Trump's FBI director appointee. And for our Beast of the Week, we're talking to the hilarious actor, comedian, and Monjaro cover girl, Jim Gaffigan.
So many good conversations this week. But Joanna, where are you right now? Because you're wrapped in your holiday brights. I'm wearing a thick turtleneck, but you have like fabric and cashmere up to the nose.
I do. I'm in Los Angeles. I've just come from 2 days at a spa called Calavi, where I was gathering with 25 power women for a summit. And can I tell you how much I hate spa music? Wherever you go, it's that kind of weird, slightly AI sounding strangeness.
It's just beautiful woodwinds and people just like clanking together bamboo. It's so peaceful. What are you talking about?
I would never want to hear another bamboo pipe in my life. But I had it was really interesting talking about sort of what comes next for women. How does this impact women in the workplace? How do women make their voices heard? And now I'm in LA where I'm here for work.
Well, I need to know just like what is the ratio when you gather with other power women? And by the way, I feel like almost every week you're at a power woman summit. There's a lot of summits for a lot of powerful women. Somehow I'm not there and I'm the one who likes the bamboo music.
That's true. So we should have a bamboo music themed summit. I want to do a Beast Women's Summit, actually, at which you will summarily be invited and expected to take part.
Oh, my God.
I do think it's a new moment of sort of women trying to figure out where are we here? What's going on with our healthcare? I mean, the accusations against Pete Hegseth, who, as we know, is Trump's nomination to take over the Department of Defense. And his mother, Penelope Hegseth, who wrote to him critiquing his behavior, the sort of letter that no parent wants to write, and certainly no parent wants to surface.
We should say that I feel like Pete Hegseth's nomination is on the rocks now. It feels like that might not be happening. And oh boy, the machinations that his mother is going through to try to take back that letter she is out there trying to undo the damage of that letter. But it's very telling. Your mother does not write you a letter like that unless she is very called to do so.
Well, an extraordinary how your mother may end up being the cause of your downfall, however inadvertently, because obviously that was not a letter that was meant to be seen in public. It was a private, anguished letter from a parent to a child. And yet it may be the thing that brings him down. That and the drinking and and all the accusations of bad behavior.
This is the stuff that Greek tragedies are made of.
Yeah, it's hard not to think of this second presidency of Donald Trump as the final season of a clapped out reality show where the promising candidates or contestants from the first season are so long gone that you can't even remember them. And now we've just got the people who are desperate that can't do anything else. That's what it feels like we have here. Kash Patel, Pete Hegseth, clearly unqualified to do extraordinarily important jobs.
Extraordinarily important jobs. Can you imagine being a person who works at the FBI right now? Who's just like, what? I spent my whole life doing what? And now who's oh, God.
Well, we have Michael Daly, one of our most seasoned reporters at the Daily Beast, has an excellent piece talking to people in the field at the FBI about how they think about this and how basically every day they're given sort of 12 to 15 cases, and they're really on the ground just trying to figure those out. And the idea that a T-shirt guy would come in and be trying to sort of close the whole place down. And as we know, he said on his first day he was planning to close the Edgar Hoover building and turn it into a museum of the deep state.
It's such a good piece. And if I was being honest with you right now, I would say that I am also just a little bit obsessed with Michael Daly himself. Seen him in meetings. He's incredible.
He's a wonderful reporter. He's in the office before everybody else. He leaves after everybody else, and he's into his 70s now. He's extraordinarily seasoned and accomplished.
He seems like he knows literally everyone and has more spies scattered around New York City and Washington than anybody. And he has a pocket protector, and I love him. Old school.
So he and Ebony Boykin Patterson have done some great reporting for us on Diddy too. So we'll come back to that as the story heats up.
I can't wait. And I'm so excited to talk to Jim Gaffigan because I love him.
I have been watching Jim Gaffigan since I moved to the States 25 years ago, and he used to appear as an up-and-coming stand-up at the Gotham Comedy Club.
Well, he's, I think, originally from Indiana, and I'm from Canada. And I feel like those are just two sister places. And I was thinking a lot about him last night, and I was like, I wonder if, and this is going to sound so ridiculous, I wonder if anyone has ever offered him cocaine, because I've never been offered cocaine by anyone in my entire life. And I feel like he and I are just two people who you would never offer it to, because they're like, it's a waste. They're just going to say no.
Well, you're just going to sneeze on it.
Just going to sneeze into it because they're just so unfamiliar. Like, I just feel like he doesn't really party very hard. Neither do I. We just kind of were like, I'll just go home and have a pfeffernuss or whatever.
All comedians give the appearance that they're just 2 minutes away from a line of coke that is laid out for them somewhere. I assume that's how you all got ready for The Daily Show.
We have been reached out to by so many like kids' parents in our lives who are like, we just wanted to make sure that your home is a safe place for my child to come to because we know you're in the entertainment industry. We were like, we're making spice cake tonight. Like we don't go out. We don't do that. And he's got 5 children. I only have 3. I'm like a weak loser compared to him. So.
Well, and I barely started. I have 2 children. The thing I'm fascinated by with people, and I long to ask him this, is with 5 children, like how do you go on holiday? How do you travel? How do you have meal times and manage that you speak to everybody? How do you not notice that there might be a child missing? I just don't understand the logistics of having 5 children.
I think there's a lot of head counts, actually. I think we all learned the lesson of Home Alone. And now we just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like that is a actually pretty big part of it, I imagine.
Yeah, I don't know how you get a car either. I guess you get, because with 5 kids, 2 adults, but if there's no one helping you with them when they're little.
He's in the entertainment industry. He drives his own stretch limo.
Stretch limo might be the best car. That might be the best family vehicle.
Every family should have their own stretch limo that they drive around Manhattan. That's how you do it. That's the only way.
So joining us now is Mary Ann Akers, the Washington editor for The Daily Beast. And Mary Ann has covered politics and Congress for The Washington Post, for NPR, and Roll Call. She was the congressional editor at The Messenger, and before that she taught advanced reporting at the American University. Mary Ann was the preeminent political gossip columnist of Washington when she penned The Sleuth at the Washington Post and Heard on the Hill at Roll Call. And today we're asking her about her recently published Beast article on the Trump-nominated FBI director Kash Patel. Mary Ann, welcome.
Hey, Joanna, thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's very exciting to have you and to introduce you to Zambi.
Yes, I'm so excited to be talking to you today, and I'm very into this story, very into your writing on the subject, and I'm so curious about all of it.
So why don't you start us off with a bit of background on the FBI? Because I'm not sure everybody fully gets what it does.
That's a really good point, because I think most people don't know the power, the incredible power that the FBI has, actually. The FBI is basically synonymous with one man named J. Edgar Hoover, whose name is still on the building, despite legislative attempts to remove his name from that building. It is still there. The FBI can investigate anything and everybody. From terrorism and cyber attacks and organized crime and corruption to civil rights violations, child pornography, espionage, you name it, they can really gather intelligence on just about anything. And as I said, anybody.
Right. It's not like a call that you're excited to get. The FBI is here. You're like, what? What's that now? Okay.
So Kash Patel has said that he would like to close down the main Edgar Hoover building and reopen it as a museum of the deep state the following day. Tell us about his nomination and how are people inside the FBI thinking about it?
Yes. Are we sure that Kash Patel knows what the FBI does? I'm not.
Okay, that's a great question, Sam. I don't know if he knows exactly what the FBI does, but I can tell you one thing. He wants to shut that shit down. And he really does want to create a museum of the deep state.
What is the nature, what is the reason for his animus toward the FBI?
It's really about the accusation against Joe Biden that his administration weaponized law enforcement against Donald Trump. And it's about the vindication of Donald Trump and vengeance against his political enemies.
Right. So his main criticism is that the FBI was weaponized, and to undo that, he wants to weaponize the FBI. So we're right? Do I have this right?
Well, yeah. I think that's a fair point. I think he basically wants to re-weaponize it in the way that they would like to use it against their perceived enemies. And he has an enemies list, and it's pretty long. And it includes not just Republicans, but Democrats as well.
He feels to me like someone who is totally unfamiliar with the inner workings of the Bureau. And he also feels like someone who would never pass the psychological test to be employed by the Bureau. How could people there possibly feel about him being in charge of them?
Maybe terrified, but maybe also feeling that it's more important than ever that they stick around to keep eyes on someone like this who would be in charge of such an enormous, law enforcement agency. It's funny, you said, how do people feel about him? Is he qualified for this job? His own boss in the Trump administration, Charles Cooperman, said, quote, he's absolutely unqualified for this job. He's untrustworthy. It's an absolute disgrace to American citizens to even consider an individual of this nature.
But he would be good for the sales of FBI T-shirts, would he not?
Oh, merch would go flying off the shelves.
I feel like his T-shirts would say female body inspector, though. That's my theory.
Because that's what he thinks the FBI stands for, right? Female body investigators. And also, isn't he the purveyor of T-shirts which just said, who farted on them?
I have read that. And, he's really into his merch. He's really into merch that is about himself. He's really into cashing in on cash. I think we could see a lot of merchandise in that museum.
So new revenue sources for the FBI.
If he is confirmed, how much power would he actually have to do what he says he's going to do? Is he capable of that?
That's unclear, Sam, and it's a really good question. It's actually a really serious question, too, because we don't know yet how serious the MAGA-verse is about making good on its threats and its promises to its followers and its threats to its perceived enemies. So, he certainly would have a ton of power as FBI director. Every FBI director does. And, in the wake of the reforms, the Watergate reforms, right, that came along to try and undo a lot of the damage that Hoover did are still in place. And there were some FBI directors who famously wouldn't even go to the White House because they did not want to be perceived as political in the slightest. I don't think we'll have that problem with Kash Patel.
Is there anybody within the organization who you think might be excited about the new leadership, or they probably don't publicly speak about it, I would imagine?
They would not publicly speak about it. It would not be in anybody's best interest to be on the record, speaking positively or negatively about the incoming administration and who actually might take over the FBI if he's confirmed. He is, in my mind, the single most controversial nominee yet that Trump has put forward. But it's early. But so far, people aren't coming out against him as quickly as they came out against Matt Gaetz and as quickly as they have against Hegseth for defense secretary.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know that people know a lot about Kash Patel. In fact, Susan Collins, I believe it was Senator Susan Collins, who said, she just doesn't know enough about him and wants to learn more. But that's why the Senate holds confirmation hearings, and that's why the Senate gets to exercise its advise and consent role in vetting these nominees and really learning who they are.
And the other thing that's slightly odd is that the FBI currently has a director who Donald Trump appointed in his first presidency, Christopher Wray, who's still got 3 years to run on his 10-year contract.
Exactly. And in order for Kash Patel to become FBI director, Trump would have to fire Chris Wray, which seems like pretty likely bet, or Wray would have to step down willingly himself. And Trump appointed Chris Wray. And then, of course, during all of the investigations into Trump, mostly relating to his efforts to overturn the 2020 election results and other things, they turned on Chris Wray. Chris Wray became an enemy of the people, just like the media and just like many Democrats.
How serious do you think could the consequences be of having an FBI director who is also a conspiracy theorist? I mean, can you talk a little bit about his connection to QAnon? I mean, this is pretty fascinating.
Yeah, it's unclear to me whether he actually believes it or he just is smart enough to know. And in fact, he has said that he realizes that QAnon has a very intense and significant number of followers. And he said that he really wanted to co-opt that group because any group out there, whether it's a conspiracy theory group or any political group, any ideology or fringe movement that loves Donald Trump, Kash Patel realized it's really important to co-opt those people and make friends with them. Whether you believe what they're espousing or not, he has certainly given QAnon a platform.
Right.
Their core belief is that a cabal of satanic, cannibalistic child molesters is operating a global child sex trafficking ring that conspired against Donald Trump, right?
Yeah, it's wacky bananas. You cannot make this stuff up. And they think that the only way, they think that Trump has to come back and win, which he's done, and he will be back. So maybe it wasn't in that order, but the belief is that Trump has to come back and only Trump alone can do this. And I think you heard during the first Trump administration when Trump would say things like, only I can do this, I alone can do this. It kind of echoes the core beliefs of QAnon.
Can I ask this question? How do they reconcile Trump's friendship with Jeffrey Epstein? Okay, so QAnon wants Kash Patel to release the Epstein flight logs, and so do Republicans like Marsha Blackburn, which you reported on. But she knows that he's on the logs. I mean, they're photographed together at parties. How can you? I'm actually asking you to find a thread of logic in the QAnon canon of mysteries. But is there a logic to it? Because it is evading me completely.
Yeah, it is so interesting, isn't it? The little hypocrisy there. And as you said, it's illogical. But I'm assuming that, to them, Trump can do no wrong.
Right.
And So what if Trump flew on the Lolita Express and was very good friends? As Joanna and you have reported on your podcast, Trump and Epstein were BFF-y, right?
Yeah.
And Epstein, as we know, was a convicted pedophile and sex trafficker. So how will they reconcile that? They probably simply won't. They just won't discuss it. It will be off limits.
It's bizarre. And if anybody hasn't listened to the tapes that we reported on of Jeffrey Epstein discussing Donald Trump and why Jeffrey Epstein, who is a great friend of Donald Trump, thought that Donald Trump was unsuited to be president, go back through our archives because it's an incredibly interesting story. And the tapes are extraordinary because he was a source for Michael Wolff's book, Fire and Fury. And the detail he has on Donald Trump is really extraordinary.
Can we talk a little bit about John Thune? Because he must wake up in the morning and go, well, what a mountain I'm not even at base camp yet.
I mean, and imagine too that he must have all his life dreamt of this moment of leading the Senate, of being the Senate majority leader. And then it's his extraordinary cross to bear that he's having to deal with all these nominations.
Yeah, I think it's going to be so interesting. I'm really excited just to see how the shit show in Congress plays out. And John Thune is a so-called normie. He's one of the Republicans who is normal. And that's, how they're referred to as normies. And he's very well liked. He's very well liked by ultra conservatives and more moderate Republicans. And he is going to have quite a job of herding cats, as the Republican leader Trent Lott used to call it. And he will be herding cats and cattle and lions and tigers. I mean, it's just going to be wild. I think, yes, he definitely wanted this job. He has wanted this job for a long time, and he clearly defeated John Cornyn. He defeated Rick Scott, who was Donald Trump's chosen candidate to be Senate Majority Leader, because they're very close. And of course, Susie Wiles is close with that senator because he was a client of hers. And it would have been very good for the Trump White House to have him as the Majority Leader. They didn't want Thune, but this is who they get, and this is who they'll have to deal with.
I never really like to find myself pinning all my hopes on Susan Collins.
Is there a possibility that the revenge of the normies actually has an impact here, that enough Republican senators don't like Donald Trump and don't want to see his more extreme nominees get the job?
Yes, that is an exciting possibility for sure. And, it could be the revenge of Mitch McConnell, because McConnell fits in the normie category. Now, you may not think that because he went along with just about everything that Donald Trump wanted throughout his administration. He clearly was so angry, toward the end on, January 6, 2021, when Trump invited his supporters to Washington. And they were there on the National Mall and they stormed the Capitol in a very deadly fashion. And it was just so horrible. I'm sure you have PTSD as well as I do from it. And McConnell's speech on the floor was so powerful against Trump and against what had happened and the attack on the institution of Congress. But, as time went on, he kind of filed back in line. And I think now that he is untethered from the burden of running the Senate and being the leader of his party in the Senate, that he is going to have a lot more leeway to make individual and choices that could go against the grain and certainly could cause severe friction and tension with the Trump White House.
It feels so antithetical to me that now we have a potential FBI director who literally platforms the January 6th insurrectionists, who raises money for them, who elevates their beautiful music and provides it to the public. I mean, we just culturally in the United States just are so worshipful of these agencies, of the FBI, of the CIA, so many cultural products seem to, we're just always watching cop shows and investigative reports and spy shows, and everybody's a genius. And now we're going to have an FBI director potentially who's like, this place is for shit. Let's burn it to the ground. I don't know what the cultural products will look like in the future. I guess they'll all be comedies.
I mean, we're going to need a lot of comedy, don't you think? I mean,
I do.
You are a comedian. Don't you think that that's the only way to cope? And it's a good coping mechanism.
I guess so. But, you know, Putin shut down the comedy shows. That's the first thing he did when he took control. The first thing he did was like literally end a puppet show that had a puppet of him. He was like, let's storm the building.
How did you feel yesterday watching the images of martial law in South Korea?
Wow. I mean, wow. It feels like we're just on the precipice of a whole new, we just keep discovering whole new worlds and whole new depths.
Do you think, Mary Ann, there'll be resistance within the FBI? I mean, the whole nature of, or the whole notion of the deep state is this sort of vast civil service that protects American institutions. And they've certainly gone through a series of FBI directors and come out the other side. Is it possible that happens here with Kash Patel?
Absolutely. Because obviously the FBI is part of the Justice Department, and so much of what they do is protecting American democracy. And they believe it in their core. It's hard to really game this out, okay, because it's so unbelievable that this is happening in the first place. So I really also want to give, I do actually want to be very open-minded and see what Kash Patel does. If he's confirmed, he is confirmed, first of all, we should say that. If he does become FBI director, maybe it won't be as bad as he has said it will be, as he has hinted that it will be. And when I say as bad as it will be, that would be for any perceived enemies, and that includes Democratic politicians, that includes judges, lawyers, journalists, people in the tech industry. Who else am I missing? The list goes on and on.
I guess of all of the really just like terrible nominations that he has put forward, Kash Patel, is he at the top of your list for most dangerous, like scariest? Or what does your list look like?
Is he at the top of the list? He certainly is at the top of the list. When you talk to the Democrats in government, when you talk to Democratic lawmakers and aides and people who work in agencies, federal agencies in Washington, D.C., he is certainly the scariest to them. He and Elon Musk, okay, and Vivek Ramaswamy, because, these people are not going to have jobs, right, if they're actually getting rid of as many people in the federal workforce as they say they will. But Kash Patel brings a certain... He brings a whole nother level of scariness to them, because he laid all this out in his book that he wrote last year, which was Government Gangsters, the Deep State, the Truth, and the Battle for Our Democracy. And it's really interesting when you hear people in the MAGA world talking about saving democracy, they both use it. The Democrats and the MAGA conservatives both talk about saving democracy, but they're talking about two very different things, of course.
Right. And he seems to have a very clear list. Like, I was on his website watching all his videos, and it's just like Rachel Maddow and Anthony Fauci. Like, it's just a who's who. His list of people who he would like to exact vengeance on is quite clear. It's very, very upfront.
Yeah. And of course, the list includes Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton and, maybe Bill, although he's very old and weak these days. But, gosh, who else? Obviously, Chris Wray. Okay. So as soon as Chris Wray is out of there, he is at the top of the list.
Yeah.
Along with, Robert Mueller and James Comey and all those guys. But yeah, it's such a long list. I was talking with a longtime former Democratic aide who now is mostly a consultant, who is still very plugged in and very involved in many causes, mostly in the arena of judicial issues and justice. And she said, never underestimate the power of bureaucracy to slow things down. And that is the one thing Democrats have going for them, because the bureaucracy in Washington is like molasses.
Right.
And it certainly will gum up the works. and slow things down. So that's the one thing I think that Democrats and any secretly anti-Trump Republicans have going for them.
But I do think that he has surrounded himself with people who are unwilling to let bureaucrats slow walk things in the same way as before.
This time is different. I agree, Sam.
He's a little savvier. Maybe not him, but the people in his camp are a little savvier about what slow walking looks like.
I guess we'll find out.
We're going to find out. I mean, it is hard, though, to speed up bureaucracy.
Right.
It's difficult. Maybe they'll find a way to do it. But
well, and you remember you would hear Gary Cohn saying, I would just remove papers from his desk. They also have the people around him also have ways of slowing him down, even when they're on Team Trump.
Yeah, they do, and they will find ways to do it. And this time around, though, I have to say it does seem a little more organized. Seems actually very organized this time. And as you know, in the last Trump administration, it was chaotic. It was just pure chaos. This time, it's a lot more organized. He has very important people, including Elon Musk, in his orbit. A billionaire who owns SpaceX and this incredible social media platform. He has many other people in his orbit who you might not even be aware are there. So this time is different, and it's also like the last chapter, the final act. It's going to be very different from the first Trump administration. And this time, of course, at least for the first 2 years, Republicans have control of both houses, both chambers of Congress, and the White House.
Yeah, he understands television. He understands what a grand finale looks like.
Could be America's grand finale.
Oh, boy.
That's exactly right. Wow.
Mary Ann, thank you for coming on and cheering us up so much.
Well, hey, anytime.
This was so great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we appreciate your reporting very much, and always look forward to seeing your stories.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and have a really happy day.
Okay, so that's a cheery way to go into the day.
Very cheery. I will say this, on another cheery note, I think that everything that could be the worst thing that happens is going to be the thing that happens. I'm not falling for any positive spin on anything. I don't trust anyone. I think whatever is the worst scenario we can all imagine is the scenario that will exist. I really believe that.
I think there's a lot more resistance to Trump than we understand in the Republican Party, and that we are going to start feeling that. We already saw it with the Gates appointment not making it through. We saw it with Trump's own nomination for Senate leader. Rick Scott, he wanted, didn't get through. I think there's going to be much more resistance than we realize, because I think a lot of normie Republicans, as Mary Ann referred to them, including people like Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham, who in public kiss the ring of Trump, are in private still appalled by him and want to figure out a way of curtailing his worst excesses. That is, I think, what's going to happen.
I think what is more likely to happen is that people who have intelligence or as a streak of resistance in them will actually just step down rather than take it on, because the full force of that anger is actually very threatening and scary and very difficult to bear bravely. And a lot of these people are at the end of their careers, and I just don't believe that they're going to be up for it. And that's a really sad and cynical take, but it is my true take. And anyway, that's why I want to do a cookie swap, because I need to do a cookie swap. I need it like oxygen.
We need some butter and sugar after that.
I think Mary Ann is great. That was so interesting. It's interesting to me that he's at the top of her list of a very dangerous appointees nominations.
I have a hard time believing it will get through. And Susan Collins, the politician, not your cat, sort of created a hostage to fortune when she said she didn't know much about Kash Patel, because the more you find out about him, clearly the less likely he is to run an organized FBI. I find it hard to believe that even Susan Collins could vote for him, but we will see.
You know what? I think we'd be better off if my cat was in the Senate right now, because I think my cat would make a braver choice.
I think we should have your cat, Susan Collins, for the head of the FBI.
She would do a better job. She would do a more responsible job. What she will do is she will eat her meal. She will get to work. She will immediately fall asleep on everybody's newspapers. And she's going to lie there all day until 11 p.m. when she really wakes up.
I bet there are some FBI directors who've done that too.
I think you're right.
We're thrilled to be joined by this week's Beast of the Week, Jim Gaffigan, comedian, actor, writer, producer, and the king of clean comedy. His material ranges from fatherhood and the Smurfs to religion and Pat Sajak. He's a 2 times New York Times bestselling author, 3 times Emmy winner, and 7 times Grammy nominee for his numerous comedy specials. And right now, he's got a new special called The Skinny. It's on Hulu. It's his 11th special.
Oh my God, you look, okay, first of all, Jim, I'm so happy to see you. And Joanna, you look very polished.
I'm in the dark. I'm in the dark. That's why it looks glowing.
It's 5 a.m. in LA.
Yeah, I think it's actually 3 a.m. in LA.
I have so many questions for you two. So, like, when Trump puts you in jail, do you get to pick the jail you go to?
Well, we were going to ask you the same thing.
We're all going to jail.
My publicist is like, don't talk about politics. I'm like,
enjoy these last few months.
I think I'm going to be fine, but like, it's going to be interesting, right?
Well, I mean, Jim, you started off the Al Smith dinner by saying, good evening, rich people. Trump is going to love that because he wants to be thought of as rich, right? And he wants to hang out with other rich people. Tell us about the experience of emceeing that extraordinary evening.
There's no better comedy audience than billionaires and politicians, right? But I do love history and, you know, the significance, or maybe it's just from my perspective, of the Al Smith dinner is so, it's, you know, the tradition is that there's one day where they kind of, you know, poke fun at themselves. That's the first time I was ever in the room with Donald Trump. And like, he has a true gift for like communication. I describe it, he was kind of performing on his heels. You know, whereas like, you know, as a comedian or an actor, you're kind of on your toes. And he was just reading through, killing the entire time. So it was really fascinating to witness essentially someone kind of mumbling through and killing. You know, it was like, right. I don't know. I don't want to compare him to Richard Pryor, but I feel like Richard Pryor could do anything on and just succeed. But like, I was very impressed by the success. What if I turned out to be a Trump supporter? Like, you figure that out.
It would be amazing.
And that's why I love it.
And that's why I'm wearing, let me take my jacket off and reveal all of my merch.
Put on my cap.
Put on your cap. I agree with you because he's so relaxed, because he doesn't give a shit what he says. Yeah. It doesn't matter what comes out. So he's the most breezy performer in the world. Did you meet him? Did he come up to you and
I met him briefly. God, it was just so, I mean, look, all politicians are weird, but you know, Chuck Schumer and Kathy Hochul they're kind of what you'd imagine, but like having been in the room with, like, Clinton has that magnetism where it's like it might as well be Bono coming in the room, right?
Right.
But Trump, there was something, like there was a certain amount of, I felt like even these billionaires were deferential. I thought the most interesting thing of the night was Letitia James, because she showed up, you know, like, so Trump is, you know, has to encounter kind of enemies all the time. But like Letitia James, what a star, right? Like, she walks into like really, you know, like there's people she's investigating and there's also people that are possible or future competition. And she was just cool as an ice cube. It was really
incredible.
Did they meet at all? Because obviously she's led all the charges against him in New York as the AG. Did Donald Trump and Letitia meet?
Well, there was a dais room where we were all back there. But we were all kind of lined up. I don't think they interacted. In the end, it's very high school. It's very entertainment industry where it's kind of, there's a civility, a kind of, the entertainment industry is all very fake. Like everyone's a big fan, right?
Right.
Oh, I'm a big fan. You know what I mean? It's just the price of entry. And so I was fascinated to see that these billionaires and then the politicians that really need the billionaires, right? So it was really interesting.
Events like that are so freaky. Like, I remember the first time going to the correspondence dinner in DC, and like George W. Bush was the president, and all these journalists were winning awards for writing stories about how he's a war criminal. And then everybody stand on the stage together and take photos together, and they're like holding a certificate, and they're like, I wrote a story and I said the worst things about you that you probably read my article and hate my guts. And they're just like smiling in a photo. It's so strange.
You can't take it personally. It's all, right. It sounds like a mafia quote. It's just business, right? Whereas I think creative people, to create things, you have to take things personally. But to navigate the business, you have to kind of be non-emotional about it. But politicians, that's another level, because they're doing a constant meet and greet, and the pay is horrible. You know what I mean?
The dividends are incredible, though.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they all end up being millionaires.
Yeah, they all end up rich. Kamala should have gone. Like, I know it was it's like a hotbed of activity, but she definitely should have gone. I mean, you had great jokes about it.
I know that we're in the middle of this never-ending autopsy, but I think that was a mistake. And by the way, her campaign manager, I saw this, her campaign manager is from Boston. Her brother is a politician in Boston, so they can't claim ignorance. I think there was kind of like, this might be a bad thing. Trump just kind of tearing into, I mean, he did tear into de Blasio, which was like, all right, I mean,
well, we're all going to tear into...
No, but it was one of those things where you're like, all right. It's like a strange level of bullying. It wasn't even kind of giving shit. It was just oddly harassment.
Right.
Which was harder, opening for Donald Trump at the Al Smith dinner or opening for the Pope when he came?
Oh, my gosh.
Both of them no-win situations, right? It's just... The Pope, opening for the Pope was just, that's, no one's coming to see the comedian. You know what I mean? No one's like, the Pope was good, but the comedian was better. I think it was more terrifying. And also it's Philly. In Philly, they're looking to kind of, and it was just, what level of irreverence can you engage in, when you're, or sarcasm when you're following someone who's doing a beautiful dance routine in their wheelchair that they're confined to. It's like, it's hard to do stand-up after that. But I would say that the Al Smith thing was scarier in a way because it was the loyalists of Trump and the loyalist of Kamala. I knew that I was going to anger them on some level. And part of me, I don't care and I love history, but part of me is like, well, I do want my kids to go to college.
Right. How do you it's so funny because you're just like I'm going to say this, a titan of comedy. Is that okay for me to say? But what did jitters feel like in you? Like, do you get nervous? Do you kind of agonize and you're like, oh God, Al Smith is in 5 days. The countdown is on. Like, what does that feel like?
I mean, I think it was all surrounding the Trump thing because there was this calculation that if he's like, I don't like this guy, he could bring it up and tell people, and his loyalists would be like, whatever you want, we'll take him out. You know what I mean? It's like, there are people in the entertainment industry that have a security detail.
Yes.
And you're like, do you really need that? And they're like, yeah, I do. And I'm like,
yeah.
Really? And they're like, yeah. And so that's just weird. I mean, and I think that Trump does have a certain amount of sense of humor, but he could sick people on someone. You know what I mean?
And it doesn't take much for that window to open and the winged monkeys to fly out the window.
Yeah.
They're easily triggered.
Like I appeared on The View. I don't want to brag, but I was on The View. And the amount of anger that prompts from people. It's a show called The View, which would lead you to believe that someone's going to articulate their view. But people get angry. It's like, just don't watch it. You know what I mean? If it's that upsetting to you. But I think it's fascinating that this show that is, people talking about how they feel on issues, and they're not universal opinions, really. It just angers people. It's so fascinating.
Just like a coffee clutch. That everybody's maximum. It is just like we are in like maximum overdrive all the time. People are so angry about something the other day. I was like, you got to pace yourself. You got to just like, you do need to take a break.
I do feel sorry for the hosts on The View because I've been doing it for years. And, when you go, you watch, they do their first segment. And usually there'll be one topic from the news. There'll be, like in W's era, there was a certain thing, and Obama, like, people are criticizing him for his suit. But like, I did a couple days ago, the first segment was like, all right, we have to go through these 13 points. Like they had to cram everything into like one segment. And each of them were lightning rod issues.
What are your 13 hottest takes on these 13 issues?
Go. There's going to be kids in cages. We got to move on. It's just we live in such a weird time.
Oh my God. Okay. I loved The Skinny. I watched it. I think it's great. What is your process like? What is your writing process? You've done so many. Was this your 11th special?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But, I love it. It's all self-assignment. And some of it is just the fear of, I'm always touring. So, people coming to a show, they need new stuff. And, challenging myself to talk about more, things that might make me uncomfortable is a good assignment. But yeah, some of it is, it's just so rewarding. It's just that, as the creative outlet of stand-up is so immediate. And also, sometimes I'm just complaining about my kids.
Well, you have almost as many kids as you have specials.
So many kids.
A lot of kids.
5 kids, right?
5 kids in New York City.
And I love New York, but it was a mistake. It was a total mistake.
Yeah, that is a mistake. I only have 3. I feel like such a weakling. I feel weak.
Yeah, and I've only got 2, and I still couldn't manage to talk to both of them every day. So, A, how do you travel together? And B, how do you manage to talk to every one of them every single day?
Is it like a wedding where you're like, you have to go around from table to table?
Yeah, it's like a meet and greet. I mean, obviously, my wife is, the hero of the whole thing.
She's incredible.
It's a lot. And by the way, I sincerely believe, this is a recent observation. I'm convinced, we've all read The Anxious Generation. I'm convinced that, like there's the greatest generation. I'm convinced that our generation as parents is the worst generation. We are the worst at it. And some of it is, and by the way, our parents weren't that great at it, but they did better by not even trying. It's really sad because we're trying so hard and not good at it. I don't know. That's my takeaway.
Well, they didn't try at all. And we all had to work really hard to build our lives. And now we're trying so hard that their experience of life is so different and they're so demeaning to us.
Yeah, and it's cruel. Like in 50 years, they're going to be like, your parents let you have a phone? And we're going to be like, we're essentially giving them cigarettes. We're giving cigarettes to a 3-year-old. Like we are, but we didn't know.
Jim, The Skinny is about you losing weight. And I wanted to know whether or not, John Cleese always said that once he started having therapy, he stopped being funny. I'm fascinated to know what's the impact of having lost weight on your creative life and also just physically.
Yeah, because it is, it's an appetite suppressant, but it is, and I joke around about how it's, and they're going to discover that it probably helps people with other compulsions and obsessive behaviors. And I joke around about how like I feel no emotions now. But
so you feel like you're a British person?
Yes, I've become very Anglican. No, I don't know. I mean, some of it is, I feel like it makes me behave like a normal person. So instead of eating 2 boxes of Triscuits, I'll just eat a half a box of Triscuits. That's my ad for Manjaro. No, I don't know if it's changed that much, because some of it is writing stand-up is something I enjoy doing. So it's not like it's not like my lifestyle's changed that much outside of just not consuming food constantly.
What was it like touring with your son?
Oh my God, that's a lot of stress.
Okay, tell me.
Imagine you're about to go on.
Yeah.
And then before you go on, the person you love and care about is about to go on. So it's just this unnecessary amount of stress. It is great, but it's a lot of stress. And I'm going to do more shows with him during his spring break. But it's weird because it's one of those things where he's good at it, but you have to be mentally ill to want to do stand-up. And I don't know if he's that mentally ill. Like he enjoys it, but I don't know if he wants the life.
Because when you would tour before, your family didn't come with you. So you did you feel like you had the freedom you were just like very focused on the work, but now you've introduced a little bit of parenting into the touring?
I would tour like on spring breaks.
Okay.
We would get on a tour bus, or during the summer we would do a tour bus. And so there were a lot of Thanksgivings at like in Las Vegas, and we used to go to Milwaukee. My wife's from Milwaukee, so they would be present at a lot of the shows. But as they got older, they were less interested. But yeah, so there was kind of every family trip was kind of, I would do a show to kind of pay for the trip and stuff like that. But yeah, I would say there is, but now when I go, like, so I'm going to Philadelphia next week, and like those days off will be, I'll be able to sleep. I don't have to wake up to get a kid to school or to beg them to get dressed to go to school.
I can't imagine what it's like trying to get 5 kids to get dressed to go to school.
Oh my God.
Again, I'm not good at it. I do maybe a fraction of what my wife does, and we're not succeeding. I take no credit.
I once filmed a bit where we would have our children lined up and we would shoot them in the face with a water cannon filled with hot oatmeal to get them ready for the day. And I feel like that's kind of what it feels like.
That sounds so much fun if you're a kid.
I have a friend, and her and her husband are both comedians. They have a teenager. And she told me that, she goes, our daughter, Bonnie McFarlane, who's very funny, she goes, our daughter has gotten up on her own and gotten herself to school since middle school. And I'm like, what? Because like my kids, like Monday morning is kind of always a surprise for them. Like they're just not prepared. You're like, what? There's school? And so it's just, they're like, oh my gosh, I have a backpack. It's all new.
Yeah, that sounds very familiar.
Self-reliant kids. That would be amazing.
Do they watch your specials? Do they like your comedy? Do they appreciate when you make jokes about them?
They're not interested.
They don't care.
If I'm on SNL and Chappell Rowan's there, they'll be excited about that. Or like I met, I was on the same SNL episode as Mulaney. They're excited about that. But otherwise, they're like, one time I walked by my daughter's room, but she's now 15. I think she was 13, and she was talking on the phone. She goes, yeah, my dad's a comedian, but it's for like old people. I was like, yeah, all right. She also thought that, like, we tried to get her to watch the halftime of a Super Bowl, and she thought Rihanna was old. And I was like, Rihanna's old?
So, Jim, what is the process of how you write a joke? Do you I feel like a lot of your comedy is from real life. So is everything copied to you? Do you workshop it? Do you try it out? What's the process?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on different topics, but if it's family or my kids, it's usually, kind of complaint based. And then there's some things where it'll kind of bump me as odd, and I'll kind of investigate, whether that be like the, some social media or internet stuff. And then it's weird. Like the religion stuff, I mean, it just keeps coming up, and it's this ancient topic, and it's kind of all been done before, but I kind of find it entertaining because it is something that appeals to atheists and believers, which is kind of fun. But I don't know. I wish I knew the process. I'd probably exert a lot less effort.
Does Jeannie take jokes out of your stuff? Is she like, no, or I like this one, but I don't like this one?
She will say things like, I don't like that. And, we used to the collaboration, and I know you and your husband, it's like, as your kids get older, it's harder to collaborate. You're essentially just trying to get things done. Her writing participation varies dramatically. And sometimes she'll see a show and she'll be like, I can't believe you're saying that. You know what I mean? But it's mostly good.
Like, what are the products that you watch together? Like, do you and Jeannie watch TV shows together? Jason and I have like separate viewing habits now.
Oh, really?
Like we just watch totally different things.
Yeah.
We rarely come together. Do you do that?
My wife loves, murder stuff, right?
Okay.
So Dateline, that's her relaxing. Hearing about someone, murdering a spouse. She loves that stuff. I like history, and I like, politics, kind of the kind of summation of the day thing. But yeah, there's been a long ongoing compromise. I would much more be into Sports Center, but I kind of gave that up because it's just, again, if someone has like, if you're in bed and we watch TV in bed and you're like, well, I have to compromise. I can't be like, hey, you're going to love watching Stephen A's take on the Cowboys. She's not interested. So, we find middle grounds on things that we'll watch, which is usually, I would say it's kind of like news, kind of politics stuff.
Right. Well, I will say that Jason and I watched your special together.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
We loved it.
Oh, well, thank you.
I know that's like the first thing we've watched together in like a year or something.
Well, by the way, it's like also, as I find it really complimentary, because like I think funny people typically are less likely to consume comedy.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like like there's great shows that I just have no interest in watching. I'm like, that are comedies. I'd much rather watch a drama than a comedy.
Me too. Like some things that you watch or that people call you to watch feel like work. Like you're like, I know I'm supposed to want to watch this, but it feels like work. I would say that like actually in particular, your specials are an exception to that. They're just like smooth. There's no there's no work. It's like there's no like, oh, how did that get like. You can relax. Like that's a different experience because you can relax because you're in good hands. But like a TV show, like a comedy show, like a half hour, we are incapable of watching. Right. Because we make
All right, here,
those.
I have a question for both of you.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen The Masked Singer? I see commercials for it.
Yeah.
I love Ken, Dr. Ken, great guy. I know it's a big hit.
Yeah.
But I see it and it's like they take the hood off and they reveal so-and-so. It's like, what is going on there and what is the appeal?
Yeah. And I also feel like it's edited in a way that feels like I'm on psychedelics. Like I feel like it's like just like having strobe lights for someone who has epilepsy. I'm like, I can't handle it. I'm like, give me a drama about the Troubles.
Yes.
In Ireland.
Right.
This is relaxing to my brain.
I never know who the people are if they unmask them anyway. So I'm like, eh.
Yeah, they kind of like, they're like, can you believe it? It's John so-and-so from the third season of...
You know what? I will watch The Masked Singer if one day Joanna Coles is one of the masked singers.
Oh my gosh, it's Joanna Coles from the Daily Beast.
Jim, it's particularly fun for me to talk to you because I watched you when I first moved to New York 25 years ago at the Gotham Comedy Club, and you would be doing a sort of 10-minute stand-up with sometimes Jerry Seinfeld, a political commentator called Walter Shapiro. There were various other people, but you so stood out because you were so funny. And also actually because you didn't curse. And that also felt different because often, especially when you're seeing people try out, you feel that you get this stream of curse words, which sort of sets up an aggression somehow. A, is that a conscious thing that you don't do it? And B, where do you think comedy goes now with Trump about to swing his legs from the president's chair again?
It's going to be interesting, I think, because to answer the Trump thing, because it, as a comedy nerd, it is fascinating because the trajectory of when he was, because before he was elected in 2016, I think people had an insatiable desire to hear about Trump. And then when he was elected, I remember, because I've never done that type of material, but watching other comedians, then hearing people talk about politics in a comedy club, you'd see the audience kind of look at the ceiling like, I came here to not think about this. You could reference it in kind of acknowledging a certain amount of chaos culturally that was occurring. But I don't know what's going to happen. I think that it's going to be one of those things where people, unless it's a show, like a television show that focuses on that, or even Seth Meyers doing a closer look, I don't think people are going to touch it because it's too loaded. Right. I don't know. Maybe I sound like a coward, but
no. I think you're right.
I think it's too complex. The cultural divide is getting deeper. I mean, he won. You know what I mean? So it's like, all right, so half the people are like, they were fine, or they have no memory, so you have to face the reality that half of us are kind of like, yeah, let's go back to that. So I think it's Masked Singer and Dancing with the Stars.
Dancing with the Stars.
I don't like to sing or dance. Maybe that's some of my
that makes you the perfect contestant.
And also, once you've finished your course of Monjaro, you'll be able to dance like a total star. You'll be able to dance and be masked.
And do lifts. All of it.
See, like, even when I'll see a clip for Dancing with the Stars, there's part of me, like when I was a little kid, there would be commercials for the Lawrence Welk show.
Yes.
And I remember as a little kid going, what is that? And there was show called Dancing. I'd be like, what is going on?
What the hell is going on? Why is anyone
when I see Dancing with the Stars, again, I have this long history of criticizing things, and then I get into it like hiking and all this stuff. But like Dancing with the Stars or The Masked Singer, I'm kind of like, what is going on? Like, what is the attraction? Like, I gotta find out who's in that Elmo costume.
This is just chaos. Oh my God. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Sure.
Always such a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, it's so nice to meet you, Jim. And thank you for years of laughter.
Oh, thanks so much, you guys. Appreciate it.
That was so fun. Thank you so much.
We did it, you guys. We did it.
Stan, that was so much fun for me. I really have watched him since I first moved here 25 years ago. He's so funny.
He's so funny. He's lovely. He's really great. I really like talking to him, and I really do. His wife is awesome. She's a force of nature.
Well, she must be a force of nature to have 5 kids.
She definitely. I wasn't being false when I said that Jason and I just so comfortably watched and loved his special. Like, we very rarely see comedy, and I don't know, he's just universally beloved and a great person. Like, I don't know, when you have like 5 kids in New York City, I think it just
breaks you.
It breaks you. And you can't bring ego to anything. Like, it actually makes sure it just dissolves that part of it. So he's just so easy and fun to talk to and so smart. I don't know. I just really admire him.
There's something nice about the way that he just reflects on regular life. I mean, in many ways, he reminds me of Richard Curtis, who just specifically chose to make movies about the things that power most of us, which is relationships, love, family, the daily things. And that's what I think Jim Gaffigan does so well.
Yeah, I agree. What a delight. The podcast is like is just like a cornucopia, just like a tray of delights, holiday delights, festive sweet meats and such.
I've never understood what a sweetmeat is.
Oh, it sounds awful.
Is the sweetmeat like brains? Or is that sweetbreads, isn't it? That's sweetbreads.
I feel like a sweetbread is like the pituitary gland of an animal or something. It's like horrible.
Yeah, I don't know why it's called sweetbreads. That makes no sense.
Sweetbreads, testicles and such. But sweetmeats, I just think of it as like Turkish delight, like just a tray of little cubes of things with sugar on them.
Even that sounds
things
good.
that I don't think that I would want that.
I'm up for Turkish delight.
I'm going to make holiday baking and I'm going to make you eat it.
Well, we could do a cookie swap, but I'm going to buy my cookies. I'm going to buy them.
Joanna.
I'm going to buy them from Myers of Keswick, the British shop that imports British biscuits, which are delicious. And by biscuits, I mean cookies.
I know that everybody, it's funny to me because out like in the world at large, and you are a glamorous person and people think of you as a glamorous person. And I just suggested that we do a cookie swap. And that is, I don't know if that's offensive or what, but I just want it. I just want it.
All right, I will rise to the challenge.
Okay.
Gauntlet accepted.
Great.
So if you have been, thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and share it with a friend.
And send us an email at beastpod@thedailybeast.com. We might just read your question on an upcoming show, although I can't promise that we will answer it honestly.
And if you're not yet a subscriber to The Daily Beast, it's easy to subscribe. Just go to thedailybeast.com.
As my beloved muse once said, be best, everybody.
Sam, you know it's be beast.
Oh my God. Am I ever going to get it right?